WDSU.
We know that he shot our officer and killed our officer, and for that he will be held accountable.
Right now at 5, from the air to the ground, officers are combing the Crescent City, searching for a man who gunned down one of their own. Tonight, team coverage on the hunt for a killer. And this is not the first time the NOPD has faced grief like this. How they were able to turn the pain of losing an officer into motivation to find justice. Plus, dealing with a delicate situation, what steps are being taken to keep the community safe in all of this? The news starts now.
On your side in Southeast Louisiana, this is WDSU News at 5.
First at 5, an intense manhunt is going on right now for the man who police say shot and killed an NOPD officer while handcuffed in the back seat of a patrol car and then escaped. Officers from across Southeast Louisiana, including state police, are helping the NOPD track down the man who killed one of their brothers in Blue. This is the suspect they're looking for, Travis Boyes, who is on the run right now. The deadly shooting unfolded this morning at a busy intersection in the 7th Ward, and we do have team coverage for you tonight with WDSU reporters Latanya Norton and Casey Ferran. But we begin with Casey, who is live near the St. Roch Cemetery right now. And Casey, what can you tell us about the search for the suspect?
A lot of that search neighborhood. We've been here for about an hour when deputies and officers came to searches. Music.
Again, that's Casey Ferran, who's out there with our news crew at this moment. Let me just fill you in on what is happening right now. Again, the department has the help of several agencies as they're working to find the man, Travis Boyes, right now. This all happened in the 7th Ward, even shutting down a portion of that neighborhood. We'll get to Casey in just a moment, but right now let's go to WDSU anchor Latanya Norton, who continues our team coverage for us with how police say this suspect was able to get away.
A chaotic yet tragic scene here at the intersection of North Claiborne and Elysian Fields Avenues. This morning, an NOPD officer was gunned down in the line of duty.
One of our very own police officer, Daryl Holloway, passed away shortly after 9 o'clock this morning.
He was 46 years old and a 22-year veteran of the New Orleans Police Department. Saturday morning around 8:30. 5th District Officer Daryl Holloway had just started his shift. He was transporting a prisoner, 33-year-old Travis Boyes, charged with aggravated assault the night before. But the ride to central lockup turned deadly.
That prisoner somehow was able to get his hands from behind his back where he was handcuffed, where then he was handcuffed from the front. Apparently he's double jointed and able to do that in the back of the car.
NOPD Superintendent Michael Harrison says while handcuffed, Boyes produced a firearm, shooting Holloway at least once to the side of the chest.
The officer's gun was not used, it was in his holster. This subject came through the back seat to the front seat through a port opening between the cage, which separates the front seat from the back seat.
Crashing into a utility pole, Holloway was transported to a hospital where he later died.
As a new chief, it was absolute hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life.
Superintendent Harrison met with Holloway's family. His friend of more than 20 years, Harrison says Holloway put up a brave and courageous fight and served his city well. Meantime, the investigation and the manhunt for Travis Boyes continues.
He will not get away with this, and justice will be served, and he will pay for what he did in killing our brother, Officer Holloway.
Multiple law enforcement agencies are working this case, searching for Holloway's killer. We're told Holloway was a longtime, well-liked member of the New Orleans Police Department. He leaves behind a family on this Father's Day Eve. On your side, Latanya Norton, WDSU News.
And again, since early this morning, police have been scouring the Crescent City trying to find Boyes right now. Casey Ferran joins us live again from the St. Roch Cemetery at this moment where, again, the search is underway for this man. Hey there, Casey.
Hey, Randy, that search is actually heavily centered in the area right behind us here in St. Roch neighborhood. We were actually over by this original scene on Claiborne and Elysian Fields about an hour ago when we saw a lot of the cops heading this way, so we followed them, and they've centered a lot of that search right here on North Roman Street and Arch Street. Right now, police, state police, SWAT, K-9 units as well as St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's deputies are on the scene also looking for this suspect, Travis Boyes. We're told not much about what happened exactly in this area to bring them here, but we're standing by trying to get more information as the search continues. Right now there is a helicopter searching and surveying overhead. They've been here, like I said, for pretty much about an hour. About a 3-block radius around this area is blocked off to the public. Now, questions are still remaining about exactly what happened. The suspect, 33-year-old Travis Boyes, was arrested hours earlier on suspicion of aggravated assault last night after shooting Officer Holloway. Officers say he got out of the police SUV and ran from the scene. And right now, authorities from NOPD, State Police, St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office, Hano, and other agencies are assisting in this search. Officers are being pretty tight-lipped about exactly what their search in this area is compromised of. They're trying to make sure that they maintain the safety of their officers as well as the public. So we'll get more details and bring those to you later tonight. On your side, I'm Casey Ferran. Back to you.
Now, Casey, speaking of the public right now, what are neighbors saying, or are they responding to this happening in their own neighborhood right now?
I think there's a lot of anxiety right now amongst the neighbors here. There's about, I'd say about 40 people standing here at the corner of Music and North Roman Street. They're pretty much asking us for more information as we're still standing by here to get more information from police. But many questions surrounding why the search is in this area. We've seen SWAT going door to door to homes, knocking on doors. They've had their K-9 walking up in the area as well, leading their search efforts. So we'll stay on the scene, but of course still a lot of tension and anxiety amongst the neighbors here in this area of St. Roch. Back to you, Randy.
Casey Ferran for us, and we'll check in with you throughout the morning, getting more updates on what's happening. Also, Mayor Mitch Landrieu is weighing in on this tragic shooting and sends his thoughts and prayers to Officer Holloway's family. In a statement, he said, quote, "This despicable, cowardly act represents the lowest of the low. Killing an officer in the line of duty is an attack on our community that will not stand. We are bringing together every law enforcement resource at our disposal to find, capture, and prosecute Travis Boyes for this heinous crime. The heart and soul of New Orleans is heavy today as our community mourns one of our city's finest. The thoughts and prayers of all New Orleanians are with Officer Holloway's friends and family and with the entire NOPD. Also, St. Bernard Parish President Dave Peralta is sending his condolences. He issued this statement saying, quote, "The citizens of St. Bernard wish to express their sympathy to Police Officer Holloway's family and the men and women of the New Orleans Police Department on the loss of a police officer who was mortally wounded protecting and serving all the citizens of the metropolitan New Orleans area. As a retired NOPD sergeant, this loss is especially painful. My thoughts and prayers go out for Officer Holloway and all law enforcement officials who daily protect and serve our citizens." And as you can imagine, this killing is sending shockwaves right now through the New Orleans Police Department. But this is not the first time the NOPD had to say goodbye to one of their own killed in the line of duty. In the years since Hurricane Katrina, the department has lost 5 officers, including the death now of Officer Holloway. WDSU reporter Travers Mackle takes a look back at how the NOPD band together to find justice for the slain officers.
On the job for 23 years, longtime officer Daryl Holloway was well known and well liked according to many of his colleagues, and he now becomes the 5th NOPD officer killed on the job since Hurricane Katrina hit the area almost 10 years ago. In November of 2007, longtime officer Thelonious Dukes was shot and killed at his home in New Orleans East. Investigators say 3 men tried to rob him while he worked on a car in his garage. All were later convicted of the murder. Less than 3 months later, Officer Nicola Cotton was shot 15 times in Central City by a man who was later deemed to be mentally deranged. She died at the scene. When officers responded, the suspect was within feet of Cotton, still holding her firearm. The story gained national attention as accused killer Burnell Johnson was later ruled incompetent to stand trial and sent to a mental health facility for the remainder of his life. The killing prompted a piece of legislation now known as Nicola's Law, which forces mental health patients to undergo better evaluations prior to their release from state facilities. In 2010, Officer Alfred Celestine died at an area hospital from injuries related to a car crash 2 days earlier when his patrol car was struck by a drunk driver as he responded to a call. The driver of the car was later convicted of vehicular homicide. And in the summer of 2013, Officer Rodney Thomas was killed by a hit-and-run driver on the high-rise in New Orleans East. He stopped on his way home from work to handle a routine traffic incident. The driver fled the scene, tried to allegedly hide the white Porsche he was driving, and then lie about the incident. Numerous people were arrested. Some have already pleaded guilty in court, while other cases in this matter are still pending. On your side, I'm Travers Mackle, WDSU News.
Now, as the NOPD searches in the 7th Ward, focusing there in St. Roch, it doesn't mean that's their only concern. Officials are always trying to put things in perspective. So joining us now is Mike Kahn. Mike, talk a little bit about what SWAT is doing right now and what the officers are doing in order to not only find this suspect, but also keep the community safe.
Sure. What the SWAT team is now doing is they're working on any leads, and they have individual units that are hunting down those leads. And if they have a suspect or they have an area of concern, then they'll contain that area first. Then they'll start delving into that area piece by piece and work it out to see if there is anyone in there by use of canines, bloodhounds, as well as their own tactics that they use.
Now, we're told that there are some canines and bloodhounds that are out there on the scene right now. What are they looking at or looking for?
Well, apparently there was a chase and some people bailed out of a vehicle they think may be related to the suspect. So in that case, they'll cordon off the block and they'll start a grid search of that block and go piece by piece looking for that suspect.
How do you keep neighbors safe, though? I mean, you're going from house to house. We've seen perimeters put in place, in the past where you've got suspects hiding under someone's home or going through their back door. So how do you handle that situation?
Sure, Randy. I mean, the best you can do is as people come outside and you're searching the block, you ask them to please go back inside their house. You're also listening for any possible 911 calls, dogs barking in the block, or if this individual could easily go into a house and take a hostage if he was still armed. My understanding is a gun was left on the scene at that point. So they'll continue to search and ask people to stay inside while they're looking.
Let's talk about the moments that led up to this deadly shooting here. How did this suspect still have a gun on him through the whole process of trying to transport him? How does that happen? Or what should have happened to prevent something like this?
Well, I can tell you with any scene like this, you don't know what you don't know yet. So everything's still unraveling, and I don't want to be too speculative, but the normal protocol is once you arrest someone, then you do a search incidental to lawful arrest. You completely search that person down. If a transport unit's coming, then usually you'll switch up handcuffs with that transport individual, and they'll do another search prior to putting the individual in the car. I'm not sure where the weapon was secreted at, but it could be open to all sorts of situations.
Security expert Mike Kahn, thank you so much for joining us here in the studio. And again, right now there is a reward of $10,000 being offered in the shooting death of police officer Daryl Holloway. If you have any information, if you have any idea where Travis Boyes could be the suspect in this case right now, call police or Crime Stoppers at 504-822-1111. We will continue to follow this breaking story for you throughout the day here, through the evening, again, as police search for this suspect.